Hello, I'm Jason Bryan, Vice President of Nor1 here at Oracle Hospitality. Thank you very much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate your time and value it as well. My objective today is to share with you Nor1's philosophy around maximizing your revenue. When we founded Nor1, we believed that the right way to price our type of software, which was demand optimization, was to align directly our success with our clients' success. And so, we started off with a performance model, which was a revenue share. And 15 years later, that's still the same model that we employ. And what that's done is it's uniquely, I would say, positioned Nor1 with our focus on generating the most revenue possible. Our entire existence and our success is completely related and directly correlated to the revenue that we generate for our clients. Our basic premise around optimizing demand is that revenue is directly related to how efficiently guests are engaged. And essentially what we've built is the ability to help our clients measure, manage, and monetize revenue. Let me show you a little bit more about how we think about that. There's three fundamental dimensions. And if we think about it as a formula, I think it's easiest to how we connect the dots with each of these. So basically your overall revenue in regards to demand optimization is going to be based on, number one, the number of guests and offers that you actually are able to engage the guest with. Two is the conversion of those offers. So how many of those offers that you actually present, how many of them actually convert, how many are guests interested in participating in? And then very specifically, what is the amount that that guest is actually willing to pay? Let me show you a little bit more of how, how we at Nor1 actually accommodate each one of these dimensions. So the first dimension is the number of guests engaged. It's interesting to me that how often many people lose sight of what I think is like the statistical reality. And so no matter how well you do the conversion, and no matter how well you've priced the product and all these other various important components, if you don't engage a lot of guests, you're not going to generate a lot of revenue. And so it would be really easy to think that, yes, we're doing, let's say, an upsell program, and we're only engaging, and if we look at our chart here, if you're only engaging guests at booking, you're likely not engaging a significant percentage of those guests. So just walking through the graphic that I have here, at the very top, to be clear, at Nor1, our goal is to engage 100% of your guests. We believe that the question is not should we or should we not make an offer. The question is, what's the right offer for this particular guest at this particular time? And if we think about the reservation life cycle and these five fundamental milestones, one, you have you're engaging the guest at booking. You may have let's say a post-booking or a retargeting communication. Then you have your confirmation communication, a pre-arrival communication, and then your actual at arrival, the opportunity to engage that guest one last time prior to them checking in. And just to look at, I think it probably makes sense here, but if we think about at least the bookends here, we think about at booking, even for large brands that do a great job on their brand.com and driving guests there, they're probably only generating 15 to 20% of their overall bookings through that channel. So if the only point that you're engaging guests there is through at that particular point in that particular channel, you're only going to hit 15 to 20% of your guests. You're only going to be able to generate 15% of the potential revenue. And then if we, kind of jump to the end, like I said, to the bookend, conversely, if you are able to engage the guests right at arrival, especially at the front desk, which is what our check-in merchandising product is geared to do, you're likely going to have the opportunity to engage 90% plus of the guests. Right, the one really big chunk of guests that you usually don't have access to until right their arrival is your OTA guests. So again, Nor1 has, we focus on engaging 100% of your guests, and the intent is to do that in this natural progression through the reservation life cycle. And we do that right at booking, and also with the retargeting communications and via the booking confirmation with our eStandby product. And then secondly, or next would be our express product, which is prior to arrival confirming confirmed offers. And then finally is empowering your agents right at check-in. And as a quick note, and maybe a sort of a sneak peek, we are currently developing the ability to provide our clients to insert our intelligence into online check-in, so that you can have 100% penetration of your upsell offers with any guest checking in, whether it's online or through an e-check-in facility or right at the front desk. The thing I would also like to highlight is just, I would say, 3 specific things that there's mistakes that we see made all the time that have a tremendous impact on the percentage of guests or the number of guests that you're going to have access to. Number one is just this belief of excluding guests, right? Clearly, there's reasons why in times where strategically it makes sense to exclude guests. However, by and large, we think that most exclusions are inappropriate. Again, don't think that you're excluding, reservations, because that's lots of times when we have these conversations, that's what people will say. You're excluding guests, and you're excluding guests from being engaged. That can't be right, is our perspective. Secondly is just don't fool yourself about how many guests that you're actually engaging. Measure. Actually, you should have an understanding. How many guests are you hitting at your booking, through your booking.com or through confirmation emails or at the front desk? You should know very specifically what that number is. It's not directly the amount of reservations that you have. And then finally is you want to make sure that you treat all guests the same, especially your OTA reservations. In our opinion, there is the equal amount of opportunity to optimize those particular reservations and those guests as there is with any others. And so we would advocate that, that you certainly attend to those, those guests and engage them with the same strategies that you would use to build loyalty with any other guests. And again, just remember 100% guest engagement, that is the goal. The second dimension is conversion. So, and this is the one that I think a lot of people spend a lot of time on, and it makes complete sense. It's 2 things that I'll refer to. One will be the first here is just the obvious. Typically, the obvious dimension of conversion is having a great presentation layer, right? It's what do my offers look like? And my guidance on this is a couple things. Number one, you should not be willing to trust your or anyone else's intuition or opinions. From having done this for 15 years, what we found is many times that intuition, even about what looks good, what looks proper, what do we like, that's not always I would say the right presentation that's going to drive conversion. What you should trust is quantification, right? Either it's A/B testing, or you'll hear it called multivariate testing. There should be an ongoing, persistent testing process, and that that a particular presentation element, that it is performing, right? And that it is of value. An example of that is something that we've done recently that I have highlighted here are embedded analytics, right? So we've all seen these types of things where it'll, suggest that, only X amount of this item is left, right? And they'll cross out that, a number and say there's only 1 left. And the intent there obviously is to create urgency. And so what we've done with our integration is, real-time those particular statistics. And so we are generating these embedded analytics. So whether it's best deal, which is a value related, or the best match or best chance, hurry up, which is based on scarcity or creating urgency. Those are generated real time. And what we found was that when we inserted these, and you can if you look deeply on the left-hand side there, the mock-up here of a presentation, when we inserted those banners on those particular items, the conversion for those went up above 10%, right? Sort of a direct benefit. But it's that level of testing that your presentation layer should have on a regular basis. So now the second area, and these are the not so obvious components that have a really big impact on conversion. 3 things. Number one is just coherency, right? As I mentioned that there are these, if we distill this down to these 5 milestones or touch points from booking all the way through to check-in, it probably makes sense, but we need to track engagement through each one of those successive opportunities to engage the guest. And so what we engage the guest with at booking we should be armed with that engagement information when we make another offer at check-in, right? We should not be making the same offer to the same guest throughout the entire progression, right? We should learn from each successive engagement, and then based on that, for this individual guest, make an offer that's relevant to them or coherent to them. Secondly, and I would say a significant amount of opportunity with our acquisition by Oracle is real-time inventory, native integration into the PMS. And so specifically the integrations that we would be leveraging are either Opera Oxy or OHIP. And so the ability there is us to see inventory real time, which allows us to make much more relevant offers, inventory that's available at that very minute. But it also allows us to confirm inventory, to actually ask the guest at check-in, what room would you like to upgrade to? And if they accept that offer, to immediately assist the agent with upgrading that automatically. And then the final bullet point there is just that we need to make offers that are guest and or reservation lifecycle specific. There's certain offers, like say, for instance, restaurant offers. Typically, our research has shown that the conversion of those is not going to be great until you get much closer to consumption, much closer to check-in. And so it's important to have a guideline or rules around when you're making specific offers in this entire progression. And the third dimension that I mentioned that is absolutely critical to you optimizing your revenue, it's the amount the guest is willing to pay, right? I mean, we can have a great presentation layer. We can expose 100% of the guests. And by the way, we can get 100% conversion, or at least the significant amount of conversion if we just charge zero, right? What we need to be able to do, and here's where there's a really nuanced difference with what we do as opposed to the way, let's say, many people think about pricing. We don't start with an item and then say, what is the price of that item? And then we present that to the guest. What we actually do is, first of all, determine what is this guest's willingness to pay, right? What do we think the price point that they are actually, what's the amount of expendable wallet share there that they actually will buy something. Once we know that, then we choose the items that are going to fit inside of that, right? Or that we strategically determine how to craft that offer set. And so the way that we're able to do this is through our Prime Decisions engine. It's not something that, we found a way that a human can actually pull off. And so on the right-hand side there in red, you see these very specific, I would say, necessities. One is you must apply machine learning. Like there isn't, for us, we haven't found another way that you could actually pull that off real time, which is the second bullet point, because these have to happen real time because inventory changes so quickly. That you cannot do that without using machine learning. And finally is, like I said, the example I gave, what we're actually doing is we're pricing and merchandising simultaneously. We assess the guest's willingness to pay, then we take a look at what's available, and then we make a decision of how to actually assort that. How do we assort that, and how do we then price that based on this specific guest? And that's how we optimize the amount that they're willing to pay. So the summary here quickly. 3 things that we continually focus on measuring, managing, and monetizing are: 1, the number of guests that you engage. 2, if you multiply that basically time what's the conversion of the offers that we made to those guests. And then if we know what the amount that guest was willing to pay, there's your revenue. And if you focus on those 3 things, you absolutely will maximize your revenue. So the key takeaways here. Number 1, as far as innovating, we believe that the approach that we take with our applied artificial intelligence, that is absolutely innovative. We believe we were the first one to bring an applied artificial intelligence engine and surface it in production. And it's not only machine learning, but it's also a host of business rules that allow us to apply a particular client's strategy. 2 is adaptability. Basically, that artificial intelligence layer allows us to adapt very quickly, especially when there's fluctuating or unpredictable demand, which we all have experienced recently because of the pandemic. And then thirdly, and related to both of those, if we, by innovating and by being able to adapt, we are hopefully then able to grow, which we believe, that is, as I started this off, that is our fundamental, our success lever. Our existence is completely related to our ability to revenue grow our clients' opportunity, and that's directly related to our own. Thank you very much.